Namaste everyone. Thank you for joining in yet another video on this channel. And in this video series of Saturn in Pisces, we are covering the different moon signs or the rising signs. Okay, and in today's video, we'll be covering the sign of Gemini or Mithuna. Okay, and this video is applicable for all those who are having either their moon in Gemini or their rising sign in Gemini. Okay. And for all transits of Saturn, the house where Saturn is moving, that becomes the focal point of your life. Yeah, that is going to become the focal point of your life for the next 2.5 years. And the houses which Saturn aspects by its third aspect or the seventh aspect or the 10th aspect, those houses are going to bring in challenges as well as rewards by Saturn. Okay, so if you look at the transit of Saturn for Gemini Moon. Saturn is transiting the 10th house, okay, for Gemini rising or Gemini Moon. And from the 10th house, Saturn is aspecting the 12th house by its third aspect, the fourth house by its seventh aspect, and seventh house by its 10th aspect. So you can see this diagram, and many of you wanted me to show via diagrams because it becomes difficult for people to understand without diagrams. Okay, but anyways, so the 10th house where Saturn is moving, that is becoming the focal point of you know of the life for all Gemini rising or Gemini moon signs. Okay. And when Saturn moves into the 10th house, what it indicates is that things which you started 2.5 years ago, or maybe more than 2.5 years ago, they're going to end. The new things are going to come in terms of work. Okay. So all those things which you started, maybe you started learning something, but you left it incomplete, or maybe you completed it. Okay. Or maybe, you got a project, right, as a part of your team in your office. And now, the project is about to end or it's continuing, but somehow Saturn is going to bring a stoppage to all the things that were started 2.5 years ago or more than 2.5 years ago. Okay. So this 10th house, remember 10th house is the house of completing your work. Okay. Not only represents your work, it also represents completing your work. Okay. And when Saturn moves into the 10th house, it is going to somehow impact your status. Okay. So whether you have been good at your work, whether you have completed your assignments on time, okay, and this may apply even if you are a student. Okay, say you are a student who is preparing for some competitive examination. Now this is the time where you will be tested. Okay, and from the 10th house, Saturn is looking at the 12th house by its third aspect. Okay, and remember the third aspect of Saturn brings challenges. Okay, it is known as the hammer aspect of Saturn. So Saturn is going to hammer the third from its position, okay, in transit. And if you look at the third house from the 10th house, we arrive at the 12th house. Okay, so if you are a Gemini moon or a Gemini rising, you will be facing issues related to your sleep, okay, or issues related to your sexual life. Okay, all of a sudden you might feel that your sexual life has become irregular, it has become infrequent. Saturn, remember, it loves to break your routine. Okay, so you will realize all of a sudden that your routine sleep has been impacted somehow. Okay, either you are forced to go to bed early or maybe you're forced to go to bed late, but somehow or the other your routine life is going to be impacted. Okay, the 12th house is also the house of isolation. So now all of a sudden you will find that you know your isolation has vanished. Okay, now that might be good for people who don't like to isolate themselves, but then there are people who are fond of isolation. So in that case, they will find it very difficult to find their mental peace, to meditate, to do their prayers and so on. Okay, so from the 10th house, Saturn is also aspecting the fourth house by its seventh aspect. And what this means is, a new car or a new vehicle might be coming your way. If you've been planning to buy a house, or if you're planning to move to a new house, then this is the time to do it. Saturn is going to make you do it. Okay. And there could be certain issues related to your mother's health, for example. There could be issues related to your mother in terms of, some differences of opinion. Okay. And because Saturn represents the end of things, so all those things which you thought gave you happiness are not going to make you happy anymore. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a challenge since Saturn is looking at the fourth house. And the 10th aspect of Saturn falls in the seventh house. Okay, so remember the 10th aspect is the failure area. Okay, now Saturn is not going to fail you in all the areas, but since this is the house of partnerships, so you might feel that your relationships have come under a bit of a stress. Your partnerships have come under a bit of stress. Or say you were partnering someone in a business, that person might not be behaving exactly in the way that you want. Okay, or your partner might be behaving, your spouse may be behaving in different ways. Okay, if you've been dating, you could face some turbulence related to your dating life as well. Okay, and the seventh house is also the fourth from the fourth house. So your mother could also go through some unhappy situations. For example, say you want to get married, but your parents are not willing to see you married with that person whom you are dating. So you could face situations similar to that. Okay, so this is how Saturn is going to behave. This transit of Saturn in Pisces is going to behave for Gemini rising or Gemini moon. Of course, Geminis did go through a lot of struggle during the last 5 years because of Ashtam Shani and Navam Shani, but now things are going to be a bit more easier. Okay, remember Saturn is going to give good results only when it transits the third, sixth, and 11th from Moon. In all other transits, it makes life difficult anyways, whether it's Sarisati or whether it's Ashtam Shani or whether it's Kantak Shani. Those transits are anyways difficult. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. This was my assessment of Saturn's transit for Gemini rising or Gemini moon. If you have any questions, please reach out at the number given in the description box. And if you want a consultation, also welcome to reach out at the same number. Okay. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon in yet another video. Namaste. Om Gurave Namaha.